The desert doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care about your name, your past, or what you believe. It takes everything from you, your water, your strength, your sanity. And if you're lucky, it gives something back. But what it gives back isn't always what you expect. This is the story of Ezekiel Harmon, a man who walked into the Mojave Desert in the summer of 1881 with nothing but a canteen, a knife, and a broken heart. He was gone for 40 days. When he came back, he wasn't the same man. Some say he found God out there. Others say he found something else, something older. This is Frontier Nights. And tonight, we walk into the desert. Ezekiel Harmon wasn't a cowboy. He wasn't an outlaw, a prospector, or a drifter. He was a preacher, born in Missouri in 1847, raised in a strict Baptist household. Ezekiel believed in absolutes, right and wrong, heaven and hell, salvation and damnation. By the time he was 30, he'd built a small church in a frontier town called Crucible, Nevada, a dusty, sun-scorched place where miners came to lose their souls and their silver. Ezekiel tried to save them. He preached fire and brimstone. He warned them about greed, violence, and the devil's whisper in the gambling halls. But nobody listened, and then tragedy struck. In May of 1881, a fever swept through Crucible. Dysentery, cholera, nobody knew for sure. But it killed fast. Ezekiel's wife, Anna, fell ill first. He prayed over her for 3 days and 3 nights. He begged God to spare her. She died in his arms on the 4th morning. 2 weeks later, his daughter, Mary, just 7 years old, followed her mother. Ezekiel buried them both on a hillside outside of town, and something inside him broke. He stopped preaching. He stopped praying. He stopped believing. The townspeople said he went mad with grief. He would sit in the empty church for hours, staring at the altar, saying nothing. One night, a miner named Dutch Mackenzie found him outside the church, kneeling in the dirt, talking to the sky. Dutch asked him what he was doing. Ezekiel looked up at him with hollow eyes and said, "I'm asking God to answer me. Just once. I'm asking him to tell me why." Dutch didn't know what to say. Ezekiel stood up, brushed the dust off his knees, and said, "If he won't answer me here, then I'll go where he has to." The next morning, Ezekiel Harmon walked out of Crucible, headed east, into the Mojave. Alone, the Mojave Desert in summer is a furnace. Temperatures reach 120 degrees in the shade, if you can find shade. The ground is cracked and lifeless. The air shimmers with heat. Mirages dance on the horizon like ghosts. It's a place where men die quietly, where bones bleach white under the sun, and nobody ever find them. Ezekiel had 1 canteen of water, a hunting knife, a Bible, and 40 days of silence ahead of him. Nobody knows exactly where he went. Some say he followed an old Paiute trail toward the salt flats. Others believe he wandered aimlessly, looking for something, anything. What we do know comes from Ezekiel himself, from a journal he kept, written in shaky handwriting on torn pages of his Bible. The entries are strange, fragmented, haunting. Day 3. The heat is unbearable. My lips are cracked. I see shapes in the distance. People, I think. But when I walk toward them, they disappear. God is silent. I scream his name into the sky. Nothing answers. Day 7. I ran out of water this morning. My tongue is swollen. I can barely swallow. I thought I saw Anna today, standing by a Joshua tree. She was holding Mary's hand. I called out to them. They didn't turn around. When I reached the tree, nobody was there. Day 12. I no longer feel thirst. I no longer feel hunger. I no longer feel human. Something is watching me. I don't know what it is, but I feel it. In the rocks, in the wind, in the silence. By the 2nd week, Ezekiel was delirious. Starvation, dehydration, heat stroke. His mind was unraveling, but he kept walking, deeper, further, away from everything. And then on the 16th day, he found a canyon. Ezekiel's journal describes it as a place that didn't belong. A narrow canyon carved into red stone, hidden behind a wall of boulders. He almost missed it, but something pulled him toward it. He wrote, "The air inside the canyon is cool. Cold, even. It shouldn't be. The walls are covered in symbols, drawings, maybe. They don't look like anything I've ever seen. Not Paiute, not Spanish. Older, much older. Archaeologists and historians have speculated about this. Some believe Ezekiel stumbled upon ancient petroglyphs, possibly left by pre-Columbian tribes. Others think he was hallucinating. But Ezekiel's description is too detailed to be a fever dream. He drew sketches in his journal, spirals, handprints, figures with elongated heads and strange, staring eyes, and in the center of the canyon, a symbol he couldn't explain, a circle with lines radiating outward, like a sun or an eye. Ezekiel sat in that canyon for 3 days. He didn't eat. He didn't drink. He just waited. For what? He didn't say. But on the third night, something happened. Day 19, I heard it last night. A voice, not words, not language, but I understood it. It spoke without sound. It told me things I didn't want to know. It showed me things I didn't want to see. I saw Anna. I saw Mary, but not as they were, as they are now, in the earth, in the silence, and they were at peace. It told me that God doesn't answer prayers the way we think he should, that silence isn't absence, that suffering isn't punishment. It told me I was never alone. The next morning, Ezekiel left the canyon. He walked west, toward home. He didn't write again for 21 days. On the 40th day, Ezekiel Harmon walked back into Crucible. The townspeople barely recognized him. He was gaunt, sunburned. His clothes were rags. But his eyes, Dutch Mackenzie said his eyes were different. He looked at you like he could see through you, like he knew something nobody else did. Ezekiel didn't speak for the first 3 days. He sat in the church, silent. Then, on Sunday morning, he stood at the altar and preached. But it wasn't fire and brimstone anymore. It wasn't fear. It was different. A woman named Margaret Fowler wrote about it in her diary. She said, Reverend Harmon spoke of the desert, of silence, of suffering. He said that God doesn't speak in thunder. He speaks in the spaces between words, in the quiet moments when we stop demanding answers and start listening. He said that death is not an ending, that the people we love are never truly gone, that they exist in a place beyond our understanding, and that one day we'll understand too. I don't know what happened to him out there, but he came back changed. Ezekiel Harmon continued to preach for another 12 years. He never spoke about the canyon again. He never explained what he saw. He never told anyone what the voice said to him. But people came from miles around to hear him speak, because when he talked about suffering, they believed him. When he talked about loss, they felt it. And when he talked about hope, they believed that too. Ezekiel Harmon died in 1893. He was buried next to his wife and daughter on that hillside outside Crucible. His journal was found among his belongings. The pages were brittle, faded. Some were missing, but the sketches remained. The spirals, the eye, the symbols in the canyon. In the 1920s, an archaeologist named Dr. Raymond Cole claimed to have found the canyon Ezekiel described. He said the petroglyphs matched Ezekiel's drawings. But when he tried to return with a team, he couldn't find it again. The canyon was gone. So what happened to Ezekiel Harmon in that desert? Did he have a vision, a hallucination, a spiritual awakening? Or did he encounter something ancient, something beyond our understanding? We'll never know. But maybe that's the point. Maybe the desert doesn't give answers. Maybe it only gives perspective. Ezekiel walked into Mojave a broken man. He came back whole, not because he found God, but because he stopped demanding that God prove himself. He learned to listen, to the silence, to the suffering, to the truth that lives in the spaces between words. The desert is still out there, silent, waiting. And if you listen closely, you might hear it too. This has been Frontier Nights. Thank you for walking into the desert with me. Until next time, stay close to the fire